Hey everyone, welcome back to the Glad Tidings Mystery Quilt Sew Along. This is block 2. So for this block, it's the same block but done in 2 ways. One block has the green ornament print, and the other block has the black, but the red and the green holly are the same for both blocks. There is a lot of trimming for these blocks, so I don't want you to be discouraged, especially since trimming is probably our least favorite thing to do. And I want to show you guys something you can do specifically for this block. The trimming is 3 1/8 inch, and I apologize that it is an 1/8 inch. I just couldn't, for it to work out mathematically, I needed it to be 3 1/8. So first of all, you just need to square up your blocks. And I'm talking about this beforehand because we all know how to make half square triangles by this point. So that's not what I want to really go over in this video. I want to go over my tips and tricks to maybe making the process go faster and a little bit easier, especially if you really don't like working with 1/8 inch increments or just hate trimming blocks. So right here, I'm gonna move this, is a 3 1/2 inch Creative Grids square ruler. I do like Creative Grids. They have on the back, there's a rough surface so it prevents your block from sliding too much. And we're working with an 1/8 of an inch, so 3 1/8. And I have been asked before when I have done patterns with 1/8s, Lindsay, where is the 1/8 mark? Like, what are you doing to me? So to explain that, your ruler, the inch is broken up into 8 parts. So if you ever forget, you just count the lines starting with the first one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then your line is your 1/8, so that would make your inch. So 3 1/8 would be, so here's your 3 inch, and then 1/8 would be your first line. So to make this even easier, what I did when we were originally testing the quilt, we made the entire quilt already, and I'm making another one because my mom was the one that made the tester quilt, and I was like, I really want one of these because it turned out so pretty. Okay, so if you have some washi tape, which I always have washi tape on hand, what I like to do is tape off exactly where you want to line up. That way you can easily see it. So, and it's a little bit over, but that's okay. And then I would just trim these side pieces and then do it on, so you need to do it on 2 sides. Okay. And I'm trying to be super careful because accuracy is important, especially when we're making this many half square triangles. Okay, so you get the idea. Now, you probably, oh, you know what? I taped that one wrong. See? Okay. Okay, I'm gonna pause and do it right, but I'm gonna tape it so this line, it's this line. I don't really need to pause it. Sorry. Okay. I was doing the 1/4 inch mark, and you want the 1/8 inch mark. Okay, that's better. So you'll tape both sides. Now, I'm gonna just make sure it's on there nice. The reason I like washi tape is it doesn't really leave residue, so I can just peel this off and use it for the next project. Like, it's not gonna be a big deal. I know some people will actually use like a wet erase marker, but I tend to smudge those, and so tape is really what I prefer. And when I pause, I'll trim off my edges. I just don't have a pair of scissors right here to trim. So that is my first tip going into this block. And I will show you exactly how I trim my block in just a minute. My second tip. So we are basically making 40 green half square triangles, 60 red, 16 black, and 24 green, okay? Now, the fastest way to do this is to kind of do an assembly line. So chain piecing and doing all your sewing at once, trimming at once, pressing at once, that's gonna be your friend. So my next tip is, when marking, now you can use, these are the wrong size, sorry. For your 4-inch piece, which is the, I believe it's AA, is your 4-inch piece. So I'm gonna pause and go get mine. I left mine on the table over there. Okay, so I have my stack of the AA squares. There's a big stack of these. I would mark them all at once. Normally I prefer using my Air Erase Sew Line pen for these, but today I'm not gonna have time to mark, like I would have time to mark them all right now, but I'm not gonna have time to sew everything. And so instead of using my Air Erase pen, I'm just going to use, I have these, they're like heat erase pens. I think I just found these on Amazon, or you could even use a pencil. But I am gonna use this just for how I'm gonna show you the blocks today. But I would definitely recommend, if you're not gonna be able to sit down and complete all your sewing at once, I wouldn't use this one. Okay, so my next tip, one of my other favorite tools, and really, whatever you're comfortable with using for marking is awesome. Like, you don't have to use these. This is just something that I've kind of gotten used to. These two rulers are my favorite rulers for marking. I do have some of these in my shop still, if you want to pick one up. This one, the reason I like it is because, if you can see, I have pretty long fingers, and I can like hold my ruler. So I can lay out, like on my table, I could lay out like 20 of these squares. And I hold my ruler, line it up, and you can see this is just the right size. Mark my line. So literally, I'm not taking a ton of time to, like, this one I have to put all the way down, mark corner to corner. So I have found I really like this one for this reason. And this is an Omni Grid. I don't believe they sell these separately, like it's a pack and it comes with like 2 or 3 sizes. The other great thing about this is so I marked my line where I'm gonna sew 1/4 inch on each side. But for those of you who wanna mark, excuse me, the lines you're gonna sew on, that's when this ruler also comes in handy, because it is exactly 1/2 inch wide. So It will take more time because you're marking 2 lines, but I wanted to show you guys this in case this is what makes you more comfortable. You go like that, and then I do that. So then I would sew on those lines rather than this one. I just marked the center and I'm sewing on either line. I hope that makes sense. I just want to share with you guys tips and tricks for different ways of doing things, because if anything I've learned from quilting is we all find kind of our own groove and our own way of doing things. And I have, over the years, just learned what I like to do, what makes things go a little bit faster. The other option you have, and this is my least favorite option, is using tape on your machine to mark a line to follow where you sew. So you do no marking on your actual fabric. And the only reason I don't recommend that one is because I don't think you can be as accurate. The other thing I want to mention is these pieces are 4 inches by 4 inches. And you're going to be trimming your half square triangles down to 3 1/8. I gave you plenty of room to do trimming so you can get your perfect half square triangle. I know some designers prefer not, because there is a little bit more waste, but I rather there be a little bit more waste so you can be more accurate than not having a lot of room to square up and then your triangles aren't perfect. So if you're wondering, hey Lindsay, why did you give me so much fabric? That is the reason. I prefer to go a little bit bigger so I can trim. Okay, so I mentioned before, this block, it's basically half square triangles. It's a 9 patch. From the block before, which was the pinwheel, you should have plenty of experience with trimming, making half square triangles. So that's not what I want to focus on. So I have made my first half square triangles. This one I've already trimmed, and I'm going to show you exactly how I trim my half square triangles. Okay, can you see the difference? I mean, you're trimming quite a bit, but I want, like I said, I want it to be accurate. So it's really important that you do not skip this step. So now I showed you how to tape off your ruler. If you don't need to, that's totally fine. Honestly, I do it to speed up the process. So the other thing that you should not kind of skip this step is you should be trimming all 4 sides, not just lining up one side and calling it good and just trimming this side and this side. For the best results, you're going to trim all 4. And to do that, the first trim, I'm just going to line up this center line with my center seam. And so I have it lined up. I'm not lining up my 3 1/8 inch because I still want to trim the other 2 sides. So all I'm going to do is make sure this center is lined up. I'm going to put some pressure down and trim these 2 sides. Okay, so now I'm going to turn my block. If you have a rotating mat, you can use one of those as well. I know not all of you have those, so I wanted to show how to do it without. Okay, so now this step is I'm lining up where I taped off to make my 3 1/8 inch square. So, and I don't think I have my tape exact on that side. I think I need to fix it. I think it's a little less than 1/8, but I'll just show you how to do this. Okay, so I've lined up, most importantly, my center is lined up, my 1/8 inch on both sides, and now I'm going to trim the other 2 sides. So now you have a perfect 3 1/8 inch half square triangle. I'm going to take it over here, and what do you know? It's perfect. The 1/8 of an inch is this line, 1/8 of an inch is this line. So now I'm gonna sew my half square triangles so I can show you how to assemble one block. And like I said, if you want to get these all done at once, I would definitely assembly line to speed up the process. But for now, I'm just going to make enough half square triangles to complete one of these blocks, so I can just show you how I sew it together. Okay, so I've sewn my half square triangles, I've trimmed, and when you're assembling your blocks, in the instructions it says, so when you're making your half square triangles, always press to the dark side, and then when you're ready to assemble, to make sure you nest your seams, you will press the top and bottom in one direction. So you can see I have them pressed to the left, and then the middle I have pressed to the right. And that way, when I sew these right sides together, these are going to nest really nicely. So then I would take it to my sewing machine and sew the block together. So you're gonna make 8 of the black version, and then you're gonna make 12 of the green version. And like I said, the best way to do this is to chain piece, and it will go super fast. So I'm gonna sew my block together, and if you have any questions, let me know. So block 3 will be in 2 weeks, and I promise there's not a lot of half square triangles in that block. So I wanted to do kind of the more tedious blocks first, because I didn't want you guys to get like totally burnt out and at the end have to do all this piecing. So anyway, if you have any questions, leave me a message. You can message me on Instagram or on the YouTube video, and I would be happy to answer them. And we will see you guys next time for block 3.